So today we're here with Tom, one of our students. Tom, introduce yourself. Let them know a bit about you.
Yeah, so my name's Tom, 22. I'm from Notts. I've been full-time in setting now for around 4 months now. And yeah, I've been working with Callum and Sam for around the last 8 months.
Perfect, bro. And obviously, you weren't always setting. So tell us a bit more about what it was kind of like at the beginning of your mentorship journey with us.
Yeah, so obviously when I joined, I was working 9 to 5. I was working at JD. Not working the best hours, sometimes working till 9 p.m., like from 12 till 9. So wasn't very optimal. Obviously, I couldn't be on my phone either,
Hmm.
whilst working. So obviously that made it harder with trying to get into setting as well. However, I still managed to make it work and sort of plan around my day. And, obviously Callum and Sam helped with that. So yeah, I was very grateful for that.
Yeah, man. It's just about optimizing the time you have at that point. And obviously, you were a manager at JD. You weren't just an employee, were you?
Yeah, no, so it was quite a lot of, responsibility on my
Hmm.
shoulders. So obviously I had the pressure of that. And then also I was sort of putting pressure on myself to make it interesting because obviously that's not what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, obviously it was quite a lot of pressure at the time, but I'm grateful for those times because that has shaped me into the person
Yeah, it's kind of
that
molded you
I am
into the
today.
sitter you are
Yeah.
now, right? Yeah. And obviously, like a manager's wage at JD. Tell us what you were making at JD.
I mean, it varied from time to time because we get paid on either 4 weeks pay or 5 weeks pay, but generally it ranged around like 1.7 to 2K. So it was okay, like it was livable, but obviously that's not what I wanted to earn.
100%, bro. And like, what would you say was probably the most frustrating thing about having to work full time?
I'll just say like mainly the time freedom because as I said, like I was sometimes working till 9 p.m. Obviously, a lot of stress on my back from like higher up managers.
Hmm.
And yeah, obviously from 12 to 9, that's pretty much like your whole day gone.
Yeah,
So for me, it was like having the time to actually do what I wanted, but then also as well, I could then put that time to better use in something that I actually wanted to do.
yeah, 100%, bro. And like, what would you say was like the one thing that made you start looking for something different other than working as a manager at JD for the foreseeable future?
Obviously social media has a big impact on that. You see all this stuff online about making money online. And, obviously I didn't go down the uni route. Obviously I went to sixth form. I did maths, economics and business. And I was actually supposed to go to Sheffield Hallam to do finance and accounting. However, I didn't end up going because, I didn't really want to do it. It was something that I thought I had to do rather than what I
Hmm.
wanted to do. So then therefore, I decided not to go. And obviously I got a job at JD. That was just meant to be temporary, but obviously it turned into something a bit more long term. So pretty much from when I first started working there, I was like always looking for ways out because I was thinking to myself, I was like, there's got to be more to life than this. Like
Mm.
this is not me.
So,
100%, bro. And like,
oh, carry on, Sam. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off. So, Tom, obviously, I know this, but the people watching this might not know this. You did try other things before getting into appointment setting. So it wasn't like some sort of thing where appointment setting was the first thing that caught your eye. You did actually try other business models as well, and you actually did invest into someone else. We won't name who, but you invested into someone else and invested in quite a lot as well. And the one thing that I see a lot from people is, they've been burnt or they've been scammed before. So it really stops them from taking that step for themselves again because just purely that fear of getting scammed, getting burnt, that reigns so highly in their head. What do you think, right? One was the thing that drew you towards appointment setting that made you think I'm going to give this another shot. And then secondarily, also made you realize that you know, this fear that I have of being burnt isn't worth just dismissing the goals and the ambition I have.
Yeah, so with appointment setting, obviously, as you said, I tried things before and they hadn't worked out. But in my head, I always knew that, there was going to be some way that worked that would, let me leave my job and something that I could do full time and go from there. And, obviously, sales is a skill that, can serve you in all aspects of life, not just business or money wise. So I knew from doing something like appointment setting that it would help me in all aspects of my life, not just, help me reach my, so-called financial goals. And
Mhm.
then, so with me getting burnt, obviously, it wasn't a great feeling, and people are going to take it different ways. But I like to think that I'm quite a headstrong person, so I always like to see the good. And obviously, from that mentorship that I was in, obviously, I did learn some things, but it perhaps didn't give me the value that I was looking for at the time. So then I was thinking to myself, well, just because they didn't give me the value that I wanted at the time doesn't mean that someone else won't. So then that's when, I sort of made the choice about, okay, well, it's not really working here. So in my head, I was thinking, okay, how can I solve this? So I was like, okay, I'm going to look for someone else who perhaps has something different that I think would benefit me more, if that makes sense.
100%. I think also that's just something that really is the nature of appointment setting. The whole entire point of this is you realize a problem and you offer a solution. That is the whole entire point of appointment setting. And being able to do that before you even got into appointment setting was such a good thing because it was that natural step that when you went into appointment setting, it didn't feel like such a, you know, it didn't feel like such a far-fetched thought. It was already something subconsciously did, which is really, really
Mm.
good. And I think it just shows that there are a lot of things that you could be subconsciously doing already. Even things like messaging your friends. These specific skills that you have, even if you don't view them as skills, can be put into the right place if you just have the right direction. Like, for example, people will so all the time they'll send follow-ups to their friends. Maybe their friend didn't get back to them, but they want to know something. They'll send a follow-up to them. Maybe you'll reach out to them first. Maybe even with talking to girls, it's the exact same thing. These subconscious skills that you're generating, these subconscious things that you're doing on a day-to-day basis, you just need to direct them at the right thing, get in the right vehicle. And little do you know, you can actually make some pretty good money from it. And I feel like that's something that makes the accessibility for appointment setting really, really, really high.
Hmm.
Yeah,
One thing I
definitely.
did want to say, one thing I did want to say was obviously pulling off of what Callum's last question was, um, when it came down to going with us, what do you think was one thing that was different from our mentorship, um, in comparison to everything else you tried in the past?
Yeah, so I would say like the main thing with your mentorship was, the one-to-one support. Obviously, when you get into a space like this, there's lots of different things that you have to think about and lots, sometimes it can be quite overwhelming when you first get started because there's so much to do. So yeah, I would say definitely having that one-to-one support. Simply just, going on Discord and finding a time that suits me best to book in and talk to you about stuff if it's been on my mind. Yeah, I think that really helped put my mind to rest
Hmm.
because naturally, I overthink quite a bit, and sometimes that can make me feel a bit overwhelmed. So
Yeah,
just simply having somewhere where I can book in to talk to someone who, most likely is going to do the same things and then
yeah.
can put my mind at ease, I'd say that definitely helped me get way further than, what I've done previously
Hmm.
because,
100%, bro.
I was sort of like having these questions and, I didn't really know who to go to or who to talk to.
Yeah. Again, sometimes it's just that second opinion, that extra bit of clarity. Somebody that
Hmm.
can tell you, no, no, like this, that was the correct thing to do. Like, don't overthink it, or maybe we tweak this a little bit. Where again, we iron out these wrinkles.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I know. I
And again,
agree.
I was just gonna say like, obviously, yes, you were in a mentorship before joining with us, but what do you feel like we taught you that nobody else did?
I would say the biggest thing that changed things for me was the mindset because
100%. Yeah.
yeah, so like obviously being in a space like this, it's quite easy to get lost and obviously as I mentioned previously, it's quite easy to get overwhelmed. So being headstrong is a massive thing. And obviously you do mindset calls weekly. So that helps as well. And then obviously as well as the one-to-one support, like all them things combined definitely help you keep your head strong. And obviously, sales naturally is a high pressure environment. So, when you're actually speaking to people, you need to be like calm and level headed. And if you're like scrambled and, overwhelmed and all over the place, then you're not going to be able to talk to people the best you can rather than if you're actually calm level headed then you can actually speak to people on a good level and actually
Mhm.
get further in
Yeah,
conversations.
100%, bro. And like, how much of sales is mindset as a percentage, would you say?
I would say a good 75 to 80% easily.
He's
yeah.
learned well. He's learned
He's
well.
learned well. This is the thing as well. Like I rave on about this so much. I always talk about this. It's just this idea that externally you will always in every single sector of your life be an internal mirror, right? Everything that you show externally, whether it's the messages that you send, the emotion that you show towards people, sometimes when you can be really angry as well. To be honest with you, for the most part, it's genuinely just a reflection of who you are inside or how you're feeling inside at that point. So when you go into appointment setting and you're already feeling quite annoyed, maybe something's, you know, affected your state going into, messaging or doing your appointment setting. If you don't calm that state, if you don't get a hold of the way that you're feeling, you're going to reflect that subconsciously within the DMs. And what ends up happening is obviously in appointment setting, the whole premise is to show that people can be acknowledged, show that people, actually are cared for in the messages. How are you meant to do that when you're not caring for yourself, when you're not, looking after yourself, acknowledging your own emotion? Because it naturally will seep into the DM. So I think that is why I personally believe that mindset is so important, especially teaching the boys, because you go into these spaces not having that mindset because no one teaches you. You go through school, no one teaches you mindset, you know, no one
No.
teaches you the actual important things. So often occasions, people can get up to 20, 21, 22, all the way up to 30, 40s, never actually realizing that their mindset is important. And they wonder why walls start breaking in every single way of their life and things start to kind of shatter. So
Yeah.
I think
And
that's why
it's
it's so important.
yeah, it's like when again like those walls do start to shatter, you kind of grow up and you realize that you don't actually have your own identity yet. You haven't found that own identity yet. You might have the goals. You might have the goals of getting Rolex and a £500,000 car. But again, it's mindset that helps you build those habits, that discipline, not motivation, but the actual discipline to keep coming back every single day and actually embody the identity of somebody that does have the Rolexes, does have that. And like this is the thing, Tom, you're probably one of the first students that heavily onboarded the concept of mindset being that important. And again, like
Hmm.
you show up to the mindset calls, we talk about mindset. Again, like I mean, obviously I still learn mindset myself through my mentor. And it's stuff that again, like you seem very much up to date on because again, you realize how important it actually is.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, as I mentioned previously, like it's so easy to like spiral. And obviously you mentioned that these sorts of things aren't taught in school. And often like we get to later years in our life and we're like we don't actually know who we are. And we're told to like find ourselves and do all this stuff. But then because there's so many different routes to go down, like you're like, okay, which one do I go
Yeah,
down?
you get a bit lost.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think on top of that as well, probably the biggest reason I see people drop off in appointment setting or just anything that they decide to improve within their life that requires hard effort is due to a poor mindset towards something. It's so often like let's just take the gym for example, right? What ends up happening in the gym is that whether we like it or not, we have to accept failure because we realize that failure optimizes growth, right? We know that if we're doing a set of something, we have to go to a failure because that is what muscles optimize for growth, right? That's how muscles grow. But when we start to apply those specific different things into other sectors like appointment setting, when we see that failure, we get scared of it, right? Because our brain's not conditioned in that same way. We don't think that that failure is optimized for growth, when really and truly it is. It is. And we know this throughout life as well. When we was younger kids, we was toddlers, we was trying to walk. We saw everyone else around us walking, but we couldn't walk yet. We could only crawl. So we didn't have that concept of fear the same way that we do now. So we kept trying to walk and walk and walk and walk. And eventually it clicked one day because we tried so many times and failed so many times, right? And that's the exact same thing with any sort of sector you go into life. And especially when you go to learn a high value skill like appointment setting, you're going to fail. You can't go into this expectation that you're going to get it right every single time because you're going to get a rude awakening when you fail for the first time. And that's why so many people decide to quit on themselves because they can't hack that when they do have that inevitable failure, they don't see it as a way to learn. They see it as a way that they put themselves down and they start to think to themselves, I'm a failure. This isn't right for me. When in reality, it's something that's so natural and everyone has to go through. And I think once again, with you, I think it's something that you adopted so quickly, realizing that every failure that you have is a new opportunity to learn about yourself, a new opportunity to tweak the things for next time that you go into it. And I think that is a
Mhm.
reason for your success and the reason that you was able to actually leave being a JD manager on earning a pretty good wage to being able to step into this as something that you do full time.
Yeah, and
100%, bro.
also as well, like one thing I want to mention, obviously as you said, obviously in the gym, to actually grow our muscles and whatnot, we have to go to failure. But then in other aspects of life, like we don't want to do it because our brain craves that comfort of who we are right now. And it's trying to keep ourselves safe from any danger, or as I said, you're trying to keep yourself safe. So obviously, it can be quite a new concept and it can cause like a bit of friction sometimes
Yeah.
because in your head you're trying to like battle between the two. But I think once you get over that, that's when you can start, making actual progress. And,
Mhm.
obviously people who are, doing well for themselves, like in the space or just in life in general, they're the ones who have failed the most times, but then also they're the ones who have tried the most times and kept going. So
Yeah.
obviously, that's one thing to, take
Hmm.
into account because as I said it's so easy to get lost in your situation right now about how you feel and how things might not be going you know the way that you want them to go, but as long as you keep going then there's no reason why you can't be successful.
Yeah. And bro, it's like the saying of like winners win, losers lose. The winners win and continue to win because they don't give up. They keep going until they win. Losers
Yeah.
lose because they lose once and they see it as a loss forever. They don't want to get back on that horse. They don't want to again like saddle up again and keep going. So they leave it on that lose, and that's why they
Mhm.
finish losing.
Yeah, I was
And it's one
literally
of
about to
these
say the
things,
thing.
yeah. And it's just like, bro, it's like the winners win because they embody the identity of a winner. They do everything in order, and all their habits align with the winner, the person that gets the result. Again, which is
Mhm.
why they win. And the losers, they have this loser mentality, bro. It's like it's the same thing like when you were talking about earlier. And all I could envision myself is when you're talking about comfort is, it's like the angel and the devil, bro. But instead of the angel and the devil, it's a fucking sofa and your phone, doom scrolling TikTok or running up a bag. Do you know what I mean? And it's like
Yeah.
the sofa's calling you, being like, "Oh, but this is comfortable. You can do this day in, day out. You can keep a job and still make a stable income, and you can sit on the sofa, or you can get uncomfortable. You can do the hard shit because nobody else is going to do it for you, and you can run up that fucking back. Because at the end of the day, bro, it's like nobody else is going to make this decision for you. And if you fall for the comfort, the trap of comfort, which is what the brain thrives on, by the way, you're never going to be able to win.
Mhm. Yeah, so something that I was actually going to lead off, but you pretty much said the exact same thing is it's ironic because winners lose more than losers lose because losers only lose at one time and just give up.
Hmm.
Winners lose, learn from it, and then continue to win because of the amount of times that they lost. And
Yeah.
going off also what you said about the way that our brains are conditioned, Tom, that specific thing is called error management theory. And it goes
Yeah.
back from when we was roaming around with predators that would literally kill us, right? So our brain was wired for literally that exact same specific thing. So, for example, let's just say that what ended up happening was, you know, we knew that if we had a false alarm, that would be free. That wouldn't cost us anything. But that one time that we missed that risk would mean the death of us. And that's something that genuinely our brains hasn't changed from. The wiring is still the same. We are literally living in a world where our wiring is based for predators. We don't live in a world with predators anymore. But what ends up happening because of that is quite often we think they're about to walk the plank. And the worst thing is we're going to drown in the sea, but the reality is we just land on our feet. And that's why our brain dresses up really small things like a pebble as a boulder. And it's just the way that our brain plays tricks on us. And we can really start to change our wiring and really learn it, given that we adopt a good mindset, given that we adopt a good mentality. And then we really start to work from there. But what I wanted to also ask you about, Tom, is we haven't actually spoken about some of your wins. I would really like to get an understanding, or the viewers get an understanding of some of your best wins, some of the wins that you're most proud of. So let us know, bro.
Yeah, so I would say probably my biggest win is being able to leave my job, as it was something that I wanted to do for quite a long time. But if we're talking financially, recently I've had quite a few £300 plus days. Last week I actually had a £600 day. And then this week as well, I'm also on pace to do my either second or third 1K week as well. So yeah, things are also looking good in terms of my finances as well.
Nice, bro. Because I feel like this is the one thing for some reason everyone wants to hear. They always exclude the mindset stuff, the super valuable stuff, and they always want to hear about, what people have done. Everyone loves the trophies at the end of the day. And I wanted to just expand, you said you've done now a couple 1K weeks. What does that feel like? Because obviously, I don't know how much you was making per week at JD, but I know for a fact it wasn't 1K. What's that like being able to just make £650, which is probably your weekly wage at JD, but then also being able to make 1K weeks, which was probably like 2 weeks worth of slave labor at JD. How does that feel like for you?
To be fair, I don't feel any sort of way towards it because I think before when I was working at JD, I was obviously very focused on the money because I was focused on obviously match my income to then leave. But in terms of like how it feels now to be able to earn that sort of money, I don't really feel any type of way like towards it because I know that I'm doing the inputs day in and day out. So it's quite unreasonable that I won't be getting those 1K weeks. So, I mean, yeah, sure, if it was nice and, I'm able to spend more freely now, but, I don't feel any type of way towards it, which is something that probably, quite a few people think about, like when they want to get started or when they get in the space is, how's it going to feel when, X happens? You know what I mean? So, yeah, like once you get there, once it's happened more than once, you're like, okay, like, yes, this is good, but I know I can do more. So, I'm going to keep doing more,
Mhm.
if you know what I mean.
No, 100%. And that's genuinely something that I went through, especially for myself. I remember thinking to myself before getting into appointment setting and when I was working at like places like Costa, McDonald's, um, I used to think to myself that the amount of money that I would make from doing something like this or making money online, that's going to make me feel better. When in reality, when you get there, it's not like you just randomly, did this just one day. It was work, 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 work. and then it's almost like you're not surprised you got it. And then when you get it, it's like this is great, but like it's time to elevate myself further. And it's just that constant progression. It's like I feel like if we kind of got to that point where we got super, super gassed, super, super excited about these wins, although they may be big in comparison to when we was working on 9 to 5s. Right now, where we're at, we know that we're capable of so much more, and it's only just the beginning. I think it just gives us that extra proof that we can really put our minds to things and make things happen. Given you're in the right vehicle, given you've got the right mindset, given that you're actually driving correctly, these things, these figures, these things that you see online, they're actually all possible. Because if someone else has done something, then you can too, right?
Yeah, of course. And also as well, obviously, um, being in the group, obviously seeing all the wins that the boys are doing as well, that obviously only eggs you on more. So obviously seeing the other people around you who have like similar sort of, goals, drives or motivations, that they're also doing it as well, obviously it's going to push you on further because you're seeing someone doing well as well.
100%.
100%, bro. And it's like there's never a bad day in appointment setting because as long as we are doing our daily inputs, progressing, building habits that do support the identity that we're trying to achieve. It's like even if you don't make 100 quid in a day, maybe you don't make 1,000 quid in a day, but everything that you are doing is progress. You are learning.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So there's not really a place where you can lose at the end of the day.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree because it's like I used to think to myself, like this is me personally from my experience as an appointment set. I used to think, if I didn't get even something as small as a booking, if I didn't get a booking, if I didn't get commissions that day, I used to think to myself that, I must be failing somewhere. Somewhere I must be going wrong. And maybe I was. But at the end of the day, if I actually sat there and thought to myself, yeah, I am failing, and I use that some sort of reason to excuse myself and wean myself out of to something. One, I'm probably not exceeding my potential, but two, I'm also succumbing to that comfort that my brain set out for me. And also realizing on top of that, going back to what Sam said, it's just this idea that every day, although you don't get an actual, I guess you could say, a benefit, a gain, so to speak, you are gaining because you learned something about yourself. Maybe you didn't utilize your time. Maybe you could have done this differently. Maybe you made a mistake and you was able to learn from it. I think all of this is really valuable information and data that we can actually take on and use. So to me, I don't think that I lose at any point. I either win or I learn. And I think that's something super beneficial from appointment setting and something that actually kind of trickles into the rest of your life as well.
Mm.
Yeah, definitely. And just like simply like changing your mindset from saying that you've lost or you've failed to your learning is what's going to, get you through those so-called bad days better. Because, as I said, like it's so easy to spiral in your mind and then that's going to show up in your work and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So if you can like almost reprogram your beliefs and your brain into thinking, okay, this has not gone so well today. Why is that?
Mhm.
And don't
Yeah.
just, blame external factors like, I don't know, something happened earlier in the day that, might have,
Might have annoyed
changed your
you.
state.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
might have annoyed you. Like you got to think, okay, like let's say you had, I don't know, let's just say 15 conversations
Mhm.
and let's just say about five were close to booking or maybe some of them you got aired or something. Don't just think, oh yeah, well that prospect is a bum or this that and the other thing. Okay, where have I gone wrong slash where could I have done better?
Yeah.
So then that way you're thinking, okay, well this part was good, but
Mhm.
this part wasn't as strong, or this part, I didn't really go into too much detail, or maybe I was slightly overreaching.
Mhm.
And then you can think to yourself and obviously talk to your team, like, okay, I don't want this to happen again. How can I make sure this doesn't happen again?
Mhm.
And that's how you move forward.
100%. It's going from that employee mindset to that operator mindset, and you start doing things in accordance to that, right? And actually moving towards that operator mindset where you're not thinking of life as something that just happens to you. It's something that you actually have a say in. And I think that that is 100% true as well. And I think that's a really good thing to adopt even now if you are watching this and you are thinking to yourself, I want to get into appointment setting or I want to start this thing. Just understanding that stop thinking about every excuse that you can think of and using it as a re reason not to do something or using that as a way that you can wean yourself out of something or let's just say it was the gym. You got annoyed about something that happened early in the day and you're pissed off and all you want to do is just scroll on TikTok, so you're not going to go to the gym. Start to realize that all you're doing is using that small thing as an excuse and you're allowing your brain to succumb to comfort.
Yeah.
What I wanted to ask you about, Tom, is something I asked Caden most recently. What would you say is your favorite system that we have in place in the community that you've used and you thought this really sets us aside to most people?
Yeah, so one thing I want to say first of all is that, when people start off on a mentorship or just in the online space in general, it can be hard to know where to go and what to do at that current moment. So I would say the favorite system that you've instilled is the tracker, where basically it goes from like week by week and day to day. So you know what you need to do like week by week and also month by month as well. Like, so it's not as if like you get to week 4, you land a role and that's it. Like, you're not sure where to go from there. Like, you know what you need to do, like throughout the whole process, which is something yet again, as I mentioned, like it puts your mind at ease. So then you can focus on what needs to be done, not what could be done, or you don't know where to go. And also on top of that, obviously, you can see that as well. So then you can obviously make sure that we're actually doing it as well and not just, leaving it up to us to do. So, I think that's been really beneficial as well.
Perfect, bro. No, I 100% agree. I think that's probably been one of my favorite implementations as well. Um, I think just being able to, I mean, you can make it as an app now. Like you can literally make it as an app on your phone. And I think that is so sick because like everything's easier as an app on your phone, isn't it? No.
Yeah.
But I just think in general, man, it's just like I think it's so beneficial. Like I'm not gonna toot my own horn here, but like it's multi-purpose, you've got the tracker, you've got the dashboard, there's everything that you need there. And it's like it's so good for the clients. And I know that for a fact the clients love it because I'm seeing it be used every single day and I'm seeing it be utilized every single day. And it's just so much better that when we actually do jump on these one-to-one calls, but I know that you find so useful it's just amazing because it's like I can also know exactly what to help you with on each individual call. So
Yeah.
it's like every call that you have is going to be tailored towards you as an individual.
hmm Definitely. And also as well, it makes it more intentional because then you can both look at where you're at on your journey and then you're like, okay, well, you're meant to be at this stage. How's that going? And if it's going well, great. But if not, then why? And then you
Mhm.
can sort of break it down from there.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
100%, bro. And like going off of, the 4 month clarity tracker, again, something I also wanted to ask you is where do you see yourself in 12 months from now?
What a question. Um, I would say, obviously setting has been great. But obviously, I don't want to stay here forever. I would say I want to move into management. That's something that's been on my mind as of recent. So now it's just finding that right time to actually go into it, and then I can build up from there, like I have done with setting.
100%. No, I think
100%,
that's
bro.
that's something that is definitely achievable for you, given, you have a great understanding of what sales teams look like. You have a great understanding of what the sales process looks like. So it really is a very cookie cut step to
Yeah.
make and an easy jump to make, to be honest with you, for you at this point. And I think I would really be keen to see you start your own offer around that as well. And I'm sure that's something that we can 100% help you with as well, which would be super, super sick to see you developing. And
Yeah.
another thing that I wanted to ask you, bro, is you're obviously gonna have a lot of people that sit on the fence watching this video. and people that are trying to make their decision to themselves. Do I even get into appointment setting, or do I even bother investing into a mentorship, let alone accelerate scaling? What would you say to that person on the fence of starting appointment setting and also starting in a mentorship like accelerate scaling?
I would just say, I mean, obviously it's easier said than done, but simply like just do it because, realistically, what do you have to lose? Like, if you was to look at it like this, like if you were to invest a certain amount of money into a mentorship, and let's say things didn't go the way you planned, like realistically, it would probably only take you about a month to maybe two to earn that money back. And yes, you might feel burnt, but then you won't be thinking back in your head, what if?
Mhm.
So, as I said, like the worst thing that can happen is that, things don't go to plan. And then obviously you're still in your same situation as you are, but at least you have that clarity that you know that you've tried it. And
Mhm.
then obviously best case scenario, it works out to be everything that you hoped it would be. And you were able to leave that job. You were able to, hit these, certain landmark months. And you were able to travel and do, all the things that you wanted to do when you set out in the space. So realistically, the positives massively outweigh the cons.
Mhm. No, I definitely think that is a huge part to play in all of it, and it's the thing that I had to take into consideration when I was starting as well. It's like I know that the life I'm living right now is not the life that I want to be living for the rest of my life, and I can be scared to take that jump. I can always be scared to take that jump, and I can weigh out every single negative thing that could possibly happen. All I'm doing at that point is excusing myself from ignoring the reason why I want to escape my situation. I want to escape my situation because I don't want to be making Costa coffees for the rest of my life, cleaning tables, doing pot wash. I don't want to be doing that for the rest of my life. And have these big aspirations and goals that Costa can't fulfill for me. So the only thing that makes sense is just to take that jump and put myself out there. And the worst case scenario is I go back to Costa and I try again. I like them odds personally because I trust myself more than I trust the process.
And also as well, like you've got to think of the mentorship, like these people are in a place where you want to be. So naturally, they're going to be able to tell you stuff that, you would not be able to find online. And it's going to save you a lot of time compared to if you were going to go solo as well. So, like obviously you're paying for the mentorship and the resources that they have, but you're also paying for their knowledge
Mhm. 100%.
because that's what's gonna push you further more than anything, rather than the resources itself.
100%. Cool. All right. I think that pretty much sums it all up, man. I appreciate you
Right.
jumping on this call with us and sharing a bit more about your story. And I hope you have a great rest of your day, bro.
You too, bro.
Have a
Take
good one.
care.
Take care.
Appreciate it. All
See you
right.
in a
Catch
bit.
you, bro.